All right, test 1, 2, 3, and it's about 12:15, and I'm going to get started a little bit early. You will be able to catch up by looking at the recording after class, and this screencast I converted to a video and then posted at YouTube. Now the way for you to see it is to come into the announcements area of Canvas, log in there, and look at the video. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit here of some housekeeping, and as usual, I like to do that. We are here at week 2. I started with counting them at weeks 0, 1, and 2. You have two things that are due this week. You have XLS3, that's Guardian Roofing Payroll, which is the very first course that we did. And so you should have uploaded it and to there. And then you have the Few text. That's the text by Stephen Few. Okay, and it's the one that's called the Show Me the Numbers text. And so in this exam is over chapters 2 through 4. I have some resources for you that help put in perspective what we did last week. We had the financial ratios quiz, and last week we worked on Dabney Financial, which is where we took 2 firms, CVS and Walgreens, and we looked at them, in terms of their accounting ratios, and we talked about how we use the ratios to wash the data and to get them down to meaningful or feasible comparisons. Now I'm going to pop up here for a moment to the announcements. And I usually have some folks here virtual office hours for today, which is 3 to 5:30, virtual office hours for Wednesday, and then the invitation to this meeting, which is 192-266-693. That's the number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and back down here to the modules area. And so you know what we have coming up. And I know those of you who will join me, of course, through the screencast, all right? And then on Thursday, we'll have a live class. So glad to see you here. And let me see who just came in. Good to see you, Alyssa. And as I was mentioning, we just some housekeeping things, so you'll want to scroll back after I post the recording and take a look at them. Now, again, just to kind of follow up, what's due this week is Excel case number 3, which is the Guardian Roofing Payroll, and that was the very first file or case we looked at. And you'll need to upload that file, okay? And you should also have loaded 1 and 2 already. Then we also have the quiz over the Stephen Few text. That's the text, the big one called Show Me the Numbers, and that's due this week as well. Then again, here are some resources that deal with ratios. And we had the financial ratios quiz. And we had worked on that Dabney Financial case where we compared CVS with Walgreens using accounting ratios. Now, so we also did XLS number 5, the town of Clintwood, and everybody should have uploaded that. That's what we did last week. Okay. And in that case, we learned how to look at a budget for a not-for-profit organization, how to do trend analysis, build on trends. We worked on the scenario manager, and it certainly is always a good idea to go back and look at that recording and see what's there. And of course, I've started early today, and so others who come in, Alyssa, you guys can all go back and look, because it's just stuff like that. So we also have everyone should have turned in, because we worked on that, the town of Clintwood, and uploaded it. So now we're working on case number 6. Now, again, glad to see you. So we got someone else who joined us here. Let's see. Okay, okay, Kristen, good to have you here. Now, here's the story. We're working pretty fast on these Excel cases. You'll notice that we're doing cases that are not due for a few weeks, and the reason is I like to go fairly quickly through the Excel cases, so that when we hit the Access cases, which most people are not that familiar with Access and with using it, we'll have some flex time or slack time to take our, and we won't have to rush through the 6 assignments. Okay, with that being said, we're going to take a look at Badger Jams. And y'all have your textbook with you, because if you don't, this just simply won't make any sense. And if you're going to review this slide and then go back and review it, that's fine. Chapter 6 is Badger Jams. It starts over on page 57. Okay? And as is usual, they start out with telling us the management problem and the kinds of skills that we'll be using and the kinds of spreadsheeting skills that we'll be using. Break-even analysis is the heart of this. Is the heart of this case, and we use break-even analysis to determine whether or not we want to proceed with, say, starting a business, or buy a new piece of equipment, or expand a factory, hire salespeople. Break-even analysis lets us determine how many units we have to sell to make sure that we at least break even. In other words, we don't lose any money. Even if we don't make any money, it's better to just be at break even than to lose money. So this case is about a company, Badger Jams, about an entrepreneur. And I always try to emphasize to everybody that it takes a tremendous amount of courage for a person to be an entrepreneur, to go out there and start their own business. And it is people who do it are willing to take a big risk, and most of the time business startups don't make it, they fail. But small businesses, those are the 100 or say 200 employees or less, are the engine of our economy. And the ability of someone to put a business together, it takes a lot from them. So we're going to talk about that as well, okay? And then we're going to put some numbers together and see how this particular situation sizes it up, it can be sized up, and how we can take a spreadsheet and depict what could happen or not happen, and provide this, decision makers some help. Now, I can tell you that I've worked with entrepreneurs before. Back when I was up at Southeast Missouri State, Missouri, the school had a thing called a Small Business Development Center, and that center faculty would work with the local banks on people who would come in with an idea and try to get a loan from the Small Business Administration in the Department of Commerce, the United States government. And so we would sit down and work with that entrepreneur or partners or whoever. And I remember very vividly that I had a gentleman who wanted to become the king of car wash in Cape Girardeau. And so he brought his business proposal, and he really was wanting to create 3 different locations. This is in a town of 30,000 people at the time. And as we began to look at and calculate everything, it became readily apparent that for him just to break even, he would every person who owned a car in that town would have to go through his wash twice a week. And so we told him that and said, hey, this isn't going to happen. Well, what did we know? We were just some college professors. So then he went to the bank, and I saw him. He said, I got the loan. I said, okay, how? He said, well, my cousin's on the bank loan committee, so I got the loan. I said, congratulations. I hope you do well. Over time, I would see the first, there were three he opened. One of them shuttered, it closed. Then the second one, and then the third. And I ran into him at a function. The business school would have things with the business community come in. He came in. I said, how are things going? He said, I should have listened to all of you. He said, I really didn't take seriously the kind of information you were giving me. And he said, I and my family, we've lost everything, and I can't repay the loans I've got. And it was very sad. Didn't make me feel good, because we'd done our best to say this may not work. Started on a small scale. Entrepreneurs at heart are people who have a desire to create a product or a product service bundle that's going to make folks' lives better. That's really a true entrepreneur does that. And not just so I can be my own boss, or I can build a business and then turn around and sell it, or any stuff like that. True entrepreneurs are people who see a need or a way to make people's lives better, and they try to put together a way to get that product service bundle to people. And I guess I can kind of give you the example of my dad. My dad was in the grocery business, the restaurant business, and later got into some other things. But I remember one day I just asked him, I said, why? We were building something. It was in the heat of the summer, and it was really hot, and we were building some shelves for stores going to open. And I looked at him, I said, why are we doing this? And he said, because people must eat. A very simple answer. That was his mission statement. People have to eat. And it's true. And so as I watched that, I learned quite well what being an entrepreneur is all about. So we're going to see this today with this company, Badger Jams. They make that type of jams and spreads, and they're up in Badger, Minnesota, as they tell us. And the protagonist in our case is Lindstrom. And so remember, these cases are word problems. So there in 57, we start to get some information about the business and some data, like what he wants to sell the jars, the 12-pack of jars for. Okay. And this is in the middle of 57, and then the authors talk about using break-even analysis. All the time, when we use these skills and you go through this course, we're always working on a business problem, okay? And we show you how to take some software, the Excel, and put it into a way that people can understand the problem, okay? And we'll even do some graphing today to make that look. And for all of you just joined here, glad to have you aboard. So we're going to look at and see how we can use what we call a pro forma. That's a Latin word for meaning for the sake of, and then a chart, a break-even chart that lets us see where we are. And of course, when we construct it properly, we can always change the values associated with the variables, and it's just like we looked at the scenario manager last week, we can do the same thing here. Well, again, I just wanted to cover the things that were done, and so we're working on case number 6. So I'm going to go up into the files area in Canvas, okay? And we're going to come down, and you're going to see the Solve It files, and here it is, the Solve It 6.0 student files. These are the skeleton files. And one of the reasons that we Don't use it because they often ask you to input a whole lot of data. But here's the Solve 6.0 solution file. And we click on that, and you're going to download it. Oops. Oop. Don't want that one. I'm sorry. Let's see. Oh, I think it's the student files. Those are solution. I'm going to have to look at that. Let's go down, download it, the student files. All right, there we are. And there's Badger Jams. Now, let me suggest that you do this. Let's open up Badger Jams. Okay. Click Enable Editing. And save this on your desktop or on whatever device you have. If you don't, what will happen is the system will assume it's a system file, and I won't be able to open it or look at it, and you'll have problems with it. So go ahead and save it to your desktop, okay? And I'm going to close this off for just a moment, okay? And let's diminish our screens and find that Badger Jams, and we'll open it up. And what I'd say at this point is you may want to go ahead, okay, and I'm going to save it as on the desktop and pop up here, and I'll save it as I'm going to save it as XLSX case 6 Harmon. Okay, and then we're going to go to work with this. Now, as I've said before, all of these cases are word problems, okay? And so you just kind of have to walk through them and start to collect the data as they give it to you. Let's look at this spreadsheet first of all and see how it's designed. Does it have a title area like we're supposed to? Sure. Does it have documentation, who created it, and all that? Yeah, we have that. Then we have the assumptions area, okay? And then we have the output, the computational and output section, okay? And he said, well, where did you get this figure, the sale price? It's there in the case. Where did you get the rent? Well, it's there in the case. The same for the advertising, it's set, and then same for the variable costs. Now let's talk about for a moment what we call the total cost equation. Total cost equals fixed costs plus variable cost. Fixed costs are things like I'm showing right here, okay, in that in A10 to B15, like the rent, the advertising, the commercials. That's stuff you got to have. They're also known as sunk costs for the simple reason you have to spend that money before you've ever made or sold one unit of product. So that's the fixed costs. So let's go down here and on line 16, let's put total fixed costs, okay? Now I'm going to highlight, I'm going to bold it, and then I'm going to put my cursor there on B12. I'm going to highlight all the way down to B16. I'm going to click auto sum. Then I'm going to bold that figure, okay? So these are the fixed costs. I have to pay these just to get into the business, just to get it started, okay? And then and then we're going to learn that variable costs, okay, are also part of total costs, and variable costs are the costs that change according to the level of business. Now, if I have a pizza, let's say I own a Subway. I'm a franchisee of a Subway, and my business doubles. I'm going to use twice as much material, food, as I did the prior period, simply because I have more activity. Okay. Now these variable costs are going to go ahead and look here and cell A18. Let's go and make that look pretty. We'll go ahead and bold it up, and then we're going to put total fixed total variable costs. I'll learn to type some of that. Okay. And I'm going to use the auto sum, and I have total variable costs of $17.55 per unit. These are per unit costs. Okay. Now the variable costs, the fixed costs we have to pay. The variable costs are those, as I said, that will change on the basis of the level of activity. Sometimes those are controllable costs, sometimes they're not. But we're going to now arrive at the shore of a third concept, and that's linked into this notion of marginal utility. Now, if you've had econ, you'll understand that marginal utility means if I buy or consume something, what additional benefit do I get? Okay, it's just like eating pizza. Okay, who doesn't love pizza? Well, if you eat 2 slices, the first slice is fantastic, the second one's good, and then the third one you start to get full, and it just doesn't have the same ambiance it did before. And so when you get to piece 4 or 5, you're kind of done with it. Okay, too much of a good thing. So we try to say, okay, if I'm going to open this business, all right, what's the contribution margin per unit sold to pay back those fixed costs? Now, let me say this also, okay? It is extraordinary. It's very, very important for you to understand that when you start a business, most entrepreneurs are typically not playing with their own money. They're playing with other people's money. They may have some of theirs involved, but it's often they'll have investors, family members, and people like that. So it's a serious thing to start a business, okay? And if more firms, if entrepreneurs would use these tools, they'll often find maybe I need to change how much I price this for, or maybe it's not a great location. And let me tell you something. I love entrepreneurs. I'm for them because they're the engine of our country, the economic engine. They create jobs. They create opportunities for people. And when I go by a strip mall or I go by a mall and I see places closed down, and I'll see, well, that's the place where I used to buy gelato. It breaks my heart because I know somebody put everything they had into that and had great hopes, but they maybe had some flaws in their in their startup. Well, this Badger Jams, we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to compute another important variable, or I would say indicator, and this is called contribution margin. As managers, we're always after, what am I going to get if I hire one more employee? What am I going to get let me spell contribution, obviously. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. If I open up a new plant, what additional sales or profits do I get? We're always thinking about that. And that's because if we're not going to get a good return, there's no use in using our money and somebody else's, okay? Or maybe we would start things differently. Now I'm over here, I put contribution margin here in cell D8, and I'm going to bold it up, and then I'm going to do something here, all right? I'm going to use our friend, the name manager. Click in cell A8, okay, and click formulas and click define name. And you'll see that the sale price, okay, and the scope can be the entire workbook or just a spreadsheet, and it says it equals Badger Jams. We worked with this last week when we had all those ratios, and so we're gonna do this again in the sale price. Now, just to make sure I did it right and to reinforce what we learned, I come back over and I look. There it is, the name. the value, and what it refers to, the cell reference, and its scope. And you know, we did this last week. We're going to do a little bit of this work here for a minute, and then we're going to get total fixed costs. So I'm going to click on B16, okay, and I'm going to define a name, and that will be total fixed costs. I'll click that. Then I'm going to come over here to total variable costs, okay, and I'm going to click define a name. And I have the new name dialog box, and it refers to 22. And you say, okay, that's great. That's a lot of work, and I can look in there, it's pretty. How does it do me any good? Well, what it does is it lets me, instead of referencing cells A85, you know, sometimes when I teach a course like this, and I say, okay, well, let's go to G17 and then go back to E15, I keep waiting for somebody to yell, bingo. Okay, so instead of trying to figure out, okay, what was an E19? Let's just define it with a name that makes sense to us. So we're going to define a name, and you'll see that's contribution margin. And we'll click OK. Now we're ready to compute the contribution margin, and the logic of it is quite simple. I'm going to use a formula. The sale price, okay, minus the total variable costs, and remember that total variable cost is a per unit, and my contribution margin is $22.40. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click here and cell B22, and then go home, and then click copy, format painter, boom. So I have my key assumptions area is all completed, and I can look at this. It's the sale price minus total variable costs. This is on a per unit basis. Contribution margin tells me each time I make a sale how much money I have, okay, to pay my fixed costs. So now we come down to that idea of break even, okay? Now, let's come down here for a moment to cell B27, and where it says number of sales, delete that and put 0 sales. When we do a break-even analysis, we start with the assumption. We start and say, what will happen if we don't sell any of this? Okay? What will happen if we buy all this equipment, do the advertising, and nobody places an order? Is it possible? Certainly. So we want to know if that kind of calamity occurs, what will happen? All right. Now, we have half of break even, and so I incremented it from the 0 to 50%, and then break even, and that's up to another 50%. And I'm going to put that break even in the middle, and the 1/2 of break even, make sure it's middle in the middle. We're doing a little bit of formatting. 1/2 break even and twice break even. So we're saying, okay, what will it look like if I have 0 sales, half of the break even sales, or I hit break even point, or I do 50% above break even point, or twice break even. So far, so good. Let's compute the break even, okay? And we'll take a look at that. And the break even units, okay, equals the fixed costs divided by total fixed costs divided by contribution margin. So we're going to equal, and then I'm going to do the formulas, and I'm going to use a formula. Okay, I'm going to take the total fixed costs, and that's going to be divided by, isn't this nice to use that formula? And there it is. It makes sense. Divided by the contribution margin. And it shows us the cells that are hot. That's that blue around the blue edge, the green edge. And look, here's our formula. Okay. Now, what it appears is we've got to sell 1,147 units. Now, we don't sell part of a 12 pack of jam or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and make that a whole number. So click on that, cell D28. Okay, let's go home. And then you'll see that we can format those numbers. And above here, and click up on and we're going to make them currency. Pardon me, those are units. Let's make them a general number. I'm sorry, just click number. Okay, and then let's get rid of those decimal points that make no sense. And then let's go ahead and put that in the middle. Now we know that to break even, we're going to have to sell 1,147 units of these 12 packs in the coming year, or for the coming fiscal period. Now, that can be quite a formidable challenge, okay? So we've got the contribution margin now, and we know what break-even point is in terms of units. And now this becomes a fairly simple process. Let's click on cell B28, and this will equal, okay, 0 times, and we'll click up here and we'll do formulas. Using a formula, the contribution margin. Pardon me. I got ahead of myself here. Let's hold on for this a minute. I'm going to go over and let's define this name. And it's break even. There we go. Now we're ready. So I'm at cell B28. This will equal 0 times break even. That'll be a 0. Then since we're working here, we can go ahead and in cell C28, this will equal 0.5 times, and we'll use the break even. Now, we've got 573.66. Click on cell D28, then click home, click copy, click format painter. I'm going to format that number. So we have 574. Now in cell E28, this is going to equal 1.5, okay? Times, and we use break even up here, do the formula. And I'm going to click in cell D28 again. We'll go home, click copy, format painter, boom. Oh, didn't want to do that. Back out of that for a minute. Sorry about that. Let's click over here in cell D28, copy, format painter, and then come over here to E28 and click that. So twice 1.5 break even would be 1,721 12 packs. Then we have twice break even, and that's going to equal 2 times, and we'll go back up here to the formulas, using a formula, break even, boom. And then we'll format that back up here to home. You see, why do you keep doing this? So you'll learn to make it a habit. If you want to format stuff, the easiest way is just click copy, format painter, and boom. Now let's make sure that these are all aligned as they ought to be. So I'm going to highlight row 28. I'll make sure everybody is in the middle. So now we have units sold. We've done that. Now let's take our cursor here at A28 and scroll all the way down to A39. And let's make that bold. Okay? We're going to make that bold. And so we've done the units sold. Now, let's think about this for a minute. let's say we know there are 52 weeks in a year. So if we want to know weekly what we have to sell, what we have to sell weekly, assuming, let's say we operate basically 50 working weeks, and we might, and we're going to lose 2 weeks to various holidays, who knows what. So I'm going to take equals, okay, and I'm going to use the formula, okay, break even divided by 50, and this means I've got to sell 22 12-packs a week. That means I've got to sell, if I have a 5-day work week, four of them a day. Now, before the internet and all of that, okay, this was a very daunting proposition, for the simple reason is you had to go see the major grocery retailers, wholesale houses, etc., restaurants, anybody that would buy this stuff from you. And you know, today you could put a website up, and you know, you might have a really good shot. The internet's changed that. If you had a good e-commerce and you use that $5,000 in advertising quite well, but still, it helps us put in perspective what we've got to do. Okay. Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to put on. I'm going to go into D10. I'm going to put another variable in there, or factor, and I'm going to call this the economic cost. You say, what are you talking about? The economic cost here, okay, refers to the $64,000 that this person is taking out of their retirement savings, probably their entire retirement savings, and putting it into the business. And if you look there at the top of page 28, the first paragraph, you're going to see that our protagonist is going to live off of his savings until the business is going. And so we call that an economic cost. That money that we would have had now is foregone because we've set it aside to live on. Okay? Now, you've probably heard this before, but about 90% of all companies that are started never make it past 5 years. Okay? The Fortune 500, the Fortune 100, the largest and most well-financed, and the firms with the greatest employee, the brightest people, that Fortune 100 turns over about every 25 years. And there are a few of those companies that have been able to sustain themselves. IBM is one of them. Probably is, and I'd have to look at that, but I think, you know, you're talking about IBM. Procter & Gamble is another of those. These are great companies because they've sustained themselves. All right. When Mr. Watson, who founded IBM, when he started that company, he estimated he would sell 3 computers a year. No, he didn't dream that. He didn't see what was there. It took Steve Jobs to see this idea of a personal device. It took somebody like Bill Gates to say, we need to find a way to use icons or symbols like we have traffic signs so people don't have to learn how to program. And the rest is all history. So we got the economic cost. So this entrepreneur is putting $64,000 up. All right. And I'm not even counting probably what Lindstrom lost in terms of the interest that he would have made. So this is why I said to you the first day we had class, to be a business person, and you have to have a real heart, you have to have courage and a lot of heart, and you have to have a desire to help people, make their lives better, give them some fun or joy if they come and need a meal, give them a safe product. Okay, those of you who very deeply feel your calling, you know, serve the Lord, you need to understand that That means if you're called to be in business, you got to do more than tell people you love Jesus or put a fish on the front door or something like that. You're going to have to be very good at what you do, because everything you do will reflect on the Lord. That's why our Lord loved entrepreneurs. Think about it. His disciples, fishermen, a tax collector, basically a bureaucrat. Hey, what can I say? A good thing for all of you as business people would be, like our Lord said, be as wise as serpents, as harmless as doves. Okay? Now, and if you say, well, Dr. Herman, I don't see that. I don't get that, because I go to chapel and I hear about these people, go on a mission trip, or these people who preach, and or they go out and they hand out Bible tracts or all that. How am I a witness for the Lord? If you provide people in your community with employment, you provide them with dignity, with a living, with opportunity for themselves to go do things. And there's a great passage where the Lord says to the disciples, when you've given a cup of water in my name, when you've given someone a cup of water in my name, you've basically given it to me. And if more people who claim to be Christian business people really thought about that, they'd make sure they brought their A game with them every day. And they'd make sure they were people of great integrity who did more than wear their Christianity on their sleeves. You'd know they were by how they act and how they behave. And the marketplace is a tough place, but that's where you're going to be able to exhibit your greatest witness for the Lord. Well, all that being said, luckily we're remote, and so I'm not going to be taking up an offering, although if I had a Bitcoin thing, I guess I would, but I won't today. All right, so we've seen the units sold. We've computed all of those. Now we want to compute the revenue. Okay, we want to know at each level of units sold, what's our revenue. So this is going to equal, and we're going to come back over here to the formula. Sell price times, and they're going to reference up to this cell, B28. Now I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the 28. Why? Because I'm going to go across the spreadsheet, and that dollar sign says stay there, stay in that row, even though I'm going to change columns. Okay? And I've got that, and then I'll just come on across. And this shows me my revenue. Now I'm going to click on cell B30 and highlight it all the way over to F30, and I'm going to click home. Okay? And I'm going to make that currency because it's money. Okay? I'm going to put it in the middle. All right, and then I'm going to decrease the decimals. Okay, so I have round numbers. Now the dollars and cents add up, but this will just, for purposes of clarity, we've got that. So we've used it now. Now we know the revenue. Now we're going to incorporate the fixed costs. This will be easy. This will, this will equal, and we go up here to formulas. Using a formula, total fixed costs, boom, $25,700. I'm going to come all the way across here and fixed cost. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on cell C30. I'm going to go home, I'm going to click copy, format painter, and I'm going to make that whole fixed cost row in that currency with no dollars and cents, which would be a tailored. So now I see, all right, the revenue, okay, that's generated. I see the fixed costs. You said they never change. That's why they're called fixed costs, okay? Those are things that don't change. When we start a business or do what we call a capital project, the money that we have to spend right here. The fixed costs are also known as the sunk costs. Those are costs that we have. That's the money we got to shell out, okay, if we're going to get in the game. We have to buy our ticket, and that's, in this case, it's rent, advertising, commercial stove, cooking equipment, before I ever sell one. If any of you have ever seen, it's that great baseball movie that Kevin Costner is in it, and you remember he builds I watched it the other day, and he builds a baseball stadium out in an Iowa cornfield, okay, and he hears this voice that says, "If you build it, they will come." Many an entrepreneur has died a very gruesome death believing that. Okay, so you want to make sure you've counted the cost. Well, now we're going to get our variable costs, and this is a per unit same thing. So this is going to equal, and I'll come back up here to formulas, and I'm going to put total variable costs, and that's going to be times the units sold, and I'm going to put I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the 28. I'm going to be coming across, and then it's simple. I just come right on across. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click in cell C32 and then home, copy, format painter. Okay, now let's look at this for a minute. Notice something, okay, on the variable costs. If I don't sell anything, I don't have any variable costs because I didn't have to prepare anything and I didn't have to ship it. Now, if it's 1/2, then I come back up. Now, granted, $20,135 is $1 less than $10,068. Remember, we've rounded these off, so they're not going to be exacting, but we're close enough. Okay, and then we see if we do 1.5 times what our variable costs will do, and what would be twice break even. You said, Dr. Harmon, is it possible that if you don't have good pricing, that you could have a problem with variable costs and end up in a bad spot? Yes, many a business has sold itself out of business because they forgot about contribution margin, and so they kept lowering their price to the point where they couldn't pay even their fixed costs, or they could barely pay those. They had nothing left. Okay, so now if we take a look at this in terms of the contribution margin in terms of the sale price, okay, it's pretty easy and I'm just going to click at this. I'm going to get this equals, and I'm going to put formula. I'm going to put the contribution margin, okay, divided by, and I'm using a formula, the sale price. Now, for every dollar of sales, 57 cents of it goes towards paying my fixed costs. So that's pretty good. I've got a pretty fair markup there. Okay, now let's come down to total costs, and that's going to be simple. Okay, and so we'll come here to cell B36, and this is going to equal, okay, and I'll use a formula, total fixed costs, okay, plus, and I'll use a formula, total variable costs, and then I'm just going to come on across with that, okay, and we're going to have the total fixed costs plus the total variable costs. Let's not do that because I'm getting a let me look at this for a minute. No, I don't want to do that. Put in cell B25. Let's use cell referencing instead. Equals B32 plus B34, and we're B34, and we've got that. Okay, and then let's come across and see if it will follow across for us. Good. So we use the cell referencing there. That worked. And now that total cost, we'll go ahead and center all of that. Well, it looks pretty. And now we have our total cost. Now we come down to profit or loss. And the profit, that's going to equal the revenue minus the total cost. So we'll do this reference again, equals. Okay. I'm just going to do the cell referencing minus B36, boom, and then I'm going to carry this all the way over. Okay, and I'm going to center these, and we're going to see something quite remarkable. Now, put your cursor, I'm going to put my cursor on B39, okay? And I'm going to come all the way across. I'm going to scroll all the way across to F39. And then I'm going to come up and we're going to do our old friend conditional formatting. And we're going to add some visualization of this. Now remember, we use the green, yellow, red bar. Of course, that's an easy one for people because they're used to seeing red, green means go, yellow means caution, red means stop. And so here we see that kind of rainbow that's here. And at twice break even, notice something. At twice break even, we make $25,700. If we don't sell anything, we lose $25,000. If we make half break even, we lose $12,000. If we do break even, we don't lose anything. And if we have 1.5 break even, we make $12,850. See that symmetry? Okay, these data are linear. Now, to really put this in perspective, though, let's look at this in terms of the economic gain or loss. So come down to cell A41. All right, economic gain or loss. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the economic cost minus the profit or loss figure above. And as you can see, and then we know that we've lost that figure there. So we want to go ahead, let's see here. So I want to do this. No, that's no good. E39. Oh, there we go. Minus there we go. And then we're just going to kind of come across. And so we've got B39 minus E10. We have C39 minus F10. Okay. And we've got D39 Oops, we're getting a little squirreliness here, aren't we? B39, and we're going to stay on row 39 and put a dollar sign in front of it. Okay, minus, and here we're going to use the currency, the formula. We didn't paste that name in there. So we're going to make that E10. We're going to make A10 we're going to put dollar sign E, dollar sign 10. Okay, probably should have named it. And there we go. There we are. Now we should be able to carry this on over and be in good shape. Now notice this: if this Lindstrom, okay, if Lindstrom doesn't sell anything, Lindstrom's out the 64 grand, and the total costs. So the economic gain or loss is $89,000, and we're going to go ahead and put those into the middle. Okay. So now we see the economic gain or loss. This is from the perspective of the investor or the entrepreneur. Okay, and look, if I break even, if I sell 1,147 units, I can console myself with the fact that I've lost the $64,000. Now notice, as I sell more units, even at twice break even point, okay, I'm still in the negative territory. And to make and to format these, let's click on these for just a moment, and then come up to currency formats, and let's scroll all the way down to more number formats. Okay, let's use the accounting format for these. Okay, and then we'll have to scrunch them out a bit. Ah, there we go. Same thing with D, same with E. And when we want to enroll, we want to impress ourselves upon the fact that if we roll the dice, this is a pretty expensive casino to play at. Even if I sell twice as many units as I think I'm going to sell, I'm 38 grand in the hole. So I'm going to have to do something with this. And since this is designed for me to be able to do to use it, and let's do this just for some visual acuity. Put your cursor on row. Let's click on row 5, and let's delete that. Okay, so we can get these up here, and 5 again, and we'll delete it. And so we can get this into the line of sight for us. And finally, one more time on row 5. Now we can see everything. Okay. Now, if we want to, we can come over here in this output and calculation area, and we can add. We can put it into. We can put some. We can go ahead and we can put in some borders. We can create it like a table, so we put a nice ribbon at the top of it, and then at the bottom, that kind of thing, and make it look pretty. But right now we see a pretty stark reality. Okay, and so what this means is we better do some serious thinking about this investment, and we better hope we're up in twice break even. We sell twice as many, because if not, we're in trouble. Well, one of the other things we can do to show this visually is to use a chart and to create a break-even chart. Okay, so we're going to do that. All right, and I'm going to click on the insert And I'm going to come over to the charts, and I'm going to click on line charts. And I'm going to come right here to align with markers. Now, before I do that, let me get myself over here while I'm out of the way. So I'm going to put a line with markers. Okay, and I can use the drag and drop. If you've had 1103, this shouldn't be that big of a deal, but we'll go through it pretty slowly, and so it won't be. Now I can either click in here and select data, or if it's up here in the toolbar, I can do that. And I'm going to click select data. Now you'll notice on the select data on this chart, there's in this dialog box, there's the legend, that's the series. That would be like the stuff that relates to the y-axis or the vertical axis, and then the horizontal or the categorical axis. So we're going to click on the legend series and we're going to click add, okay? And that series name, we're going to start with fixed cost. So I'm going to click here, boom, okay? And then I need the values associated with fixed costs. And come all the way across here, and there we are. Okay, now we'll click OK, and we're going to add another, and that's going to be the total cost. So I'm going to click add, click over here, and in cell A31, and then the values will be those associated with total cost. Okay. And I'm going to do a third one, and that's going to be revenue. So I'm going to click add, series name, revenue. Okay, and then the values will be these. And boom. Okay, and I have myself a very nice break-even chart. All right, now let's do something here, and let's go ahead and make this out to scale as nice. And we're going to format the. We're going to format. First of all, we're going to add some. We're going to add some things to the chart. Okay, so we want to click on layout, and or is it format? Let me see here. Layout. I forget. Design. Okay, I want to add a chart element. Okay, so here we are. I want to put in axis titles. Now click on the primary horizontal axis title, and we're going to put the title below the axis. Okay, and in the axis title, we're going to put units sold. Well, I don't want to, let's see, I don't want to do that like that. Let's see, I want to, let's go, forget that. Let's go back to our old friend of select the data, and I can right click inside the chart and do that. Here we go. I'm going to go back to the select data source dialog box, and on the horizontal category, I'm going to click edit, and I'm going to get the axis label range, and it's going to be these values here, and it will show us. I'll click OK, and we can see it 1147 revenue and total costs meet. Now anything in this triangle that's up to the right means I'm making money, I'm okay. Down here means I'm in trouble. I'm treading water here, now I'm drowning. Now, I want to go ahead and add some other chart elements to this. So I'm going to click back inside the chart, and now I think I can do layout design stuff. Yeah, now I can put in an axis titles, and I'm going to start the primary horizontal title below the axis, and there I'm going to put units sold. Sorry about that meandering there a while ago. So we got the units sold. Okay, and I'll come back over to the axis titles, and I'm going to put a primary vertical axis title, and I'm putting it in as a horizontal title, and it will say costs / revenues. And if you're working with a different version of Excel, it may look a little bit different to you. Okay. Now we have our final crowning glory is we want to add one more chart element, and I want to click design, layout, and I want a chart title, centered overlay, and then I'll put in Badger Jams BE analysis. Now, folks, what I'm going to have to do is a little finagling here, okay? And so I'm going to have to take this chart and size it up just a hair. And this area here, I'm probably going to want to move it on out a little bit here. And we got Badger Jams BE analysis. There it is. That looks not very nicely done. Now we have two ways to depict this data. We've depicted it in a table using conditional formatting, and then we've over here and created your traditional break-even analysis chart. Now the cost revenues, I'm going to click column on that, and I can make that a little bit smaller, so it's easier to see that unit sold. So there we are. We've done a little charting here. We've used the name manager again. We've looked at break-even analysis. Okay. We've looked at a whole lot of things here, and we've put together a very, very nice pro forma. You say, what are you talking about? Well, if I'm looking at this, I'm saying, wow. Okay, even if I sell twice as much after I live off of my money, I'm losing $38,000. Most companies, when they start, lose money the first few years. That's why so often it's so hard for them. And so I might want to do some adjustments. So one of the things I could do would be to say, okay, I'm going to change my sale price. Now, you're going to probably hear me say this several times, and it's not because I can't remember I said it, but it's because I want you to hear it and tattoo it in your brain. It's sad that we don't offer you a course on pricing. Pricing is a signal in the market, okay? Pricing is not something that you use to determine your internal budget. The price you can get for a good or a service and good bundle depends on the market. Okay? So this selling price of $39.95 should be something that came from somewhere other than your hip pocket, if you get my drift. It ought to be other similar products. What do they sell for? Okay? Because you don't have much room to discount here. Okay? So if you get in a pricing war, you're in trouble. So you need to say, okay, well, can I live with this, all right, if this will be my outcome? Now, I can attack the sale price, and I'm going to do that. And so instead of selling this for $39.95, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sell it for $45. And let's see what happens. Okay? And as you notice here, our profit or loss, not so bad. Okay. We start to see the revenues jump up there. Let's make it 49. Okay. And we can start to see how this all works. So we can look at these, all right, and I could come down here. Now, let's say this at $39.95. Okay. And let's come down and let's say let's try to negotiate the rent down to $10,000 a year. Now we start to see how it looks. See, we only need to sell 1,000 of them now. Let's say the commercial stove. We say, look, we need maybe we can get it for $6,500. And notice there's even fewer that we have to sell to break even. The cooking equipment, we're there. Let's say we can take the preparation and packaging, and instead of it costing $15.60, we can get it down to $14. You see what's happening here? The break even keeps coming down. Okay, the total costs keep going down, and our profit or loss keep going. Our profit or loss improves. Okay, so we did a little bit of work with this. Okay, and again, we again, good spreadsheet principles. So we have the title, then we have the documentation, then we have the assumptions area, then we have the computation and the output area, and we use conditional formatting to provide a decision maker with a quick and easy way to see how this thing could go. Then we do a break-even chart, okay, that shows us the profit area, the loss area, so we've depicted these data in tabular and in graphic form. And we have it at that classic break-even analysis. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to copy this and you'll want to save it. Okay. Now what will be and then you can upload it when we finish today. Now let's look at this for just a minute, and I want to add some more things to the to this. The sale price, okay, is always something that marketing folks ought to have a really good handle on. In other words, who are we competing with? Because once you figure that out, that starts to tell you what type of outlets do I want to go after. Okay. Now, if you can go in with your product, and it would probably take Walmart about a year to 18 months to figure out if they wanted to put your product in their stores, because everybody wants to have their product at Walmart. Okay. And you're not the only jam people in town. Smucker's, who's been around a long time, and so they're going to be somebody that they have a relationship with Walmart. Walmart gives them a certain amount of shelf space, and for Badger jams that might be the case. Or you may want to try to sell to restaurants. Who knows? But that $5,000 for advertising, okay, you better be thinking very carefully about that. All right. And could you simulate some of these numbers? Sure. Okay. And you could do that by just going out and getting pricing on things like commercial stoves, cooking equipment. The shipping is $1.95 a 6-pack, 12-pack. would it be possible to get a bulk price on that? But that means how you handle your orders. Okay. Now the good news is that if you have some losses, you can do what the IRS calls a loss carry forward up to 5 years. But after 5 years, you got to make money, or I think it's 4 or 5 years. And if you're not making money, they're going to say this is like a hobby or something because you're just throwing money away. And they'll give you the carry forward of the loss, which means you won't pay any taxes, your company won't. And a lot of startup companies follow exactly that pattern, okay? And you want to make sure you've gotten all of the fixed costs, that there are no surprises. There's one important one that's missing from here. It's called insurance. I don't see it, and you're going to want to have insurance for your business. But if you don't have that included here, you are literally kind of playing with fire. And you've got to make certain that you don't have that you're insured or you're covered. If somebody opens up a jar of jam at their house and then they say, oh, there's glass in it, or I found a dead mouse or something like that. So you're going to want insurance. And so you'd have to figure that in. And that's one of the weaknesses in this case is insurance. And I guess you could probably, in the variable cost, it's going to be a fixed cost. Your insurer is going to want a certain amount of money every year or every month. And then this starts to change how all this looks, how many units you have to sell. Well, we had gotten ourselves to the point where we only had to sell 958 units. That's a lot less than selling 1,147. Okay, so is it possible that maybe we ought to sell these at like $45 or $46? Maybe. But the key thing here, first of all, is going to be the sales price. And that's where you're going to have to go out and get prices of similar products that are already out there in the market. Because prices are signals, okay? They're signals. They tell you that, this is a luxury item or this is a discount item, okay? And you go through that kind of, you have to go through that little cataloging to see, well, if Smucker's sells, how much would 12 jars of Smucker's cost? Is it $40 compared to what we have? I have no idea. Yeah, but you can go to Walmart and find out. And you want to survey them and get pricing data to see what stuff looks like, and to make sure also, how do we compare with Walmart's house brand? Whose jam do you think Walmart wants to sell? Smucker's or their own? Their own, trust me, because their own is cheaper, okay? So-called generics or house brands are usually cheaper than the so-called premium brands. Now, I can guarantee you that if I took, I don't know, if you took, if Walmart or Homeland, or these are some of these other stores out here, if they make their own, or they buy a private label product, and you put a Smucker's down and this private label, and you put a blindfold on, and you put it on a piece of toast, you couldn't tell the difference. Or maybe you could. I don't know. I know this Smucker's is there because people like the product. They buy it. Okay? So that's the first key consideration. And the other issue is you start to go into those fixed costs. You've got to make sure you're getting the best return for your dollar. Okay, and you want to see how many square feet do I need. Okay, then advertising is another one of them. Now, right now, if we go back to the original figures, and I'm going to do we'll go back this was 12,000. And the advertising and the commercial stove was, let me see what it was, $7,200. and the cooking equipment is still $950. So that $25,000. Now we're back to break even. I've got to sell 1,071 of these items. Okay. Oh no, I see. What's missing here? We've got the rent, advertising. Oh, it's the preparation and packaging. That's going to be $1,560. There we are. Now, let's think about this, okay? Let's say you do about half as well as you thought you would. What that means from the advertising perspective is for every dollar you spend in advertising, you get about $4 in return. You say, how do you know? It's pretty simple. I'm gonna take the revenue, okay, and I'm gonna divide it by the advertising. That's about $4.13. So for every dollar of advertising, I'll get $4.13 in sales. And I ought to be doing some thinking about what are those outlets? Should I just do this off the web? Or how should I do this? That's why you need a marketing person, okay? And that's why we give you a marketing course, so you have a way to answer those questions, or at least have enough intelligence to go, before I take my $5,000 and spend it on advertising, I better get somebody in here who can help me figure out how to do this. What are the best channels or ways for me to advertise? Okay, so there's a lot of things here in this case that the authors don't talk about, but I can tell you from experience, some good, some bad, some not so good or bad, what you're up against and what you're trying to accomplish. And this is a tool. Every single time we do one of these, remember, I build that assumptions area and then the output and computation area, so I can see what will it look like if this happens or that happens. Or if I change this, how does it change the complexion of everything? Because as a decision maker, you're paid to come up with the best answer you can come up with, given your circumstances. And as I've said before, your decision or the outcomes of decisions are like on a continuum, really, really good, really, really bad. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. It's about 1:38, so yeah, we started early, so we've gone a little bit over, and that's okay. I started about 15 minutes early today. And listen, again, anytime I start early, don't fret, because what I'm going to do now is I'll come back and I'll save this recording, I'll convert it, and then post it up at YouTube, and then I'll give you the link here in the announcement area in Canvas. So, my friends, we've worked on case number 6. We'll have a physical meeting on Thursday, and I'm going to close this off and save it. And then you've done your work and you'll want to upload it, okay, over there where it says upload XLS7 here. Because we worked on XLS6, all right? And like I said before, we're working ahead, okay? And again, for this week, you have the text, the few from the Stephen Few's text, show me the numbers, and then you should have already uploaded XLS3. In fact, you should have uploaded 4 and 5, and today we did 6. We're working ahead, as I said before, so that we can have some flex time to work on the access cases. And so if you haven't had that much experience with it, you can do so. But we've looked at a classic break-even problem for an entrepreneur, break-even analysis, and how to do it. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to stop here before I stop the share and I stop recording. Is there anybody that's got a question I can try to answer for you today? Any questions? Okay, my friends, thank you so much. Have a good one.